what if the way we've come to believe learning works is actually limiting our potential, keeping us tethered instead of truly setting us free? What if real education isn't about how much information we can absorb, but like how deeply we can engage with the world around us?
That's a really fascinating way to frame it for our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring some really powerful ideas about, well, the nature of education and how we learn. And we'll be drawing insights from Paulo Freire's book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Super influential work.
Right, Freire's work. It's been such a touchstone for so many people, hasn't it? People who believe education should be about, well, more than just rote memorization.
Definitely.
He really challenged the traditional ways of teaching. It's the kind of thinking that resonates with resources like the Mindful Moments YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which uses AI to offer book analysis and really spark our own reflection and critical thinking, kind of like what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. And, at the heart of Freire's work is this idea that our fundamental drive, sort of our vocation as humans, is to become more fully ourselves.
Okay, to become more human.
But he argues that societal injustices and oppressive systems actively work against this. They can, in a very real sense, dehumanize us.
Wow. So it's not just about external stuff, but something that impacts our very sense of self.
Precisely. And what's crucial, Freire doesn't see this dehumanization as like some inevitable fact of life.
Right.
Instead, he frames it as a direct consequence of an unfair social order. And he proposes a two-stage approach to overcome this.
Okay, what are the stages?
Well, first, those who are experiencing oppression need to recognize it, really see it, and then commit to transforming their situation.
Right, the awareness piece.
Yeah. And second, education itself needs to become a practice of liberation for everyone involved, actually.
You mentioned something earlier, a duality experienced by the oppressed. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, it's a really insightful point he makes. Often, individuals who are oppressed can sort of internalize the beliefs and values of those who hold power over them.
Like believing what the oppressor says about them.
Exactly. Imagine someone who's constantly been told they're incapable. They might start to believe it deep down.
Yeah.
So even when opportunities pop up, that internalized voice, that part of the duality, prevents them from fully embracing their potential. And Freire put it so powerfully, freedom is acquired by conquest, not by gift.
It's
something you have to actively pursue,
Yeah.
and defend.
That really sheds light on his critique of traditional schooling, what he called banking education.
It absolutely does. The banking concept, that was his metaphor. The teacher is the expert, the one who deposits knowledge.
Into the students who are like empty accounts.
Right, empty vessels, yeah. Think back to those classrooms, maybe you experienced them, where the teacher did like 90% of the talking.
Oh, definitely. Lots of listening, taking notes.
Exactly. And what were the key features of this banking model for Freire?
Yeah, what did he identify?
Well, several things. The teacher is assumed to have all the knowledge. Students know nothing. Communication is mostly one way. Teacher talks, students listen passively. The teacher has the authority, disciplines, students are expected to be disciplined, and crucially, the teacher chooses all the content, and the students just have to adapt and, well, memorize it.
So a very top-down controlling approach.
Totally. And Freire argued this kind of education actually reinforces oppression. It treats students like objects, not active subjects. And it hinders their ability to think critically, to really engage.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the alternative he proposed to this problem-posing education?
Yes. Problem-posing education. It basically flips the script entirely.
How so?
Instead of students just passively receiving info, they become active participants. They explore and solve problems that matter to them. Dialogue and critical thinking are absolutely central.
So the teacher's role changes quite a bit.
Massively. The teacher isn't the depositor anymore. They become more like a facilitator, maybe a co-investigator, learning alongside the students.
It sounds much more like a partnership then, a shared journey.
That's a great way to put it. Knowledge isn't just transmitted from on high, it's constructed, built together through this ongoing process of inquiry, people investigating the world, their experiences, together. Freire had this beautiful quote about it: knowledge arising from invention and reinvention. Through the restless, impatient, continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, with the world, and with each other.
Wow, that's Yeah, restless, impatient inquiry. I like that. And this approach, it must be inherently challenging to oppressive systems.
Oh, absolutely, by its very nature, because problem-posing education encourages questions, analysis, a critical look at why things are the way they are.
It empowers people.
Exactly. It empowers people to recognize injustice, to imagine alternatives, and that's, a direct threat to anyone benefiting from keeping things unequal.
Dialogue seems absolutely key here. But for Freire, it's more than just like chatting, right?
Much, much more. Authentic dialogue, for him, involves really genuine self-expression, but also a deep, respectful engagement with different viewpoints.
Okay.
It requires humility, knowing you don't have all the answers. It requires faith in others, hope for change, and that critical thinking piece again.
And I read that this dialogue often centers around generative themes.
Yes.
Things from the learner's own lives.
Yes,
Okay.
Precisely. The learning isn't abstract or disconnected. It's rooted right in the students' lived experiences, the issues they grapple with, the things they care about.
Makes sense.
And through this dialogue, this reflection on these real-life themes, something really crucial happens. It's what Freire called conscientization.
Conscientization. Okay, that sounds important. Break it down for us.
It really is central. It's basically the development of critical consciousness.
Critical consciousness.
Yeah, becoming aware of the social, the political, the economic inequalities that shape our lives. And crucially, understanding that these things aren't just natural or inevitable. They're not fate.
So they're human-made realities.
Exactly. Human-made, historical realities. And because they're historical, they can be changed. Problem-posing education helps people shift from just accepting their situation to seeing it as something susceptible of transformation.
Seeing that change is actually possible. That
Yeah.
You can be part of that change. Okay, now Freire also talked about cultural action. Could you explain that maybe in a more straightforward way, like really simply?
Sure, let's try. Imagine there are two main ways people act in society, two kinds of action.
Go.
One way tries to keep things unfair. Maybe one group takes over another, or tries to divide people, trick them, or force their own ideas onto everyone else. Freire called this way anti-dialogical, against dialogue.
Right, the oppressive way.
Yeah. Then there's the other way, the dialogical way. This is about people working together, being united, organizing themselves, and really learning from each other's cultures and experiences. The goal here is to make things fair for everyone.
So cooperation versus domination.
Kind of, yeah. And Freire strongly believed that the people who are actually being treated unfairly hold a unique key. They have the potential to help everyone, including the oppressors, become truly free and equal.
How does that work?
Well, it involves them stopping believing in the old stories, the myths that keep them feeling powerless, and then working together not just to switch who's in charge.
Not just flipping the roles.
Exactly. But to create a whole new way of being human, a situation where nobody is an oppressor and nobody is oppressed, a truly liberated society.
That's a profound goal.
Yeah.
And it really feels like these ideas are still incredibly relevant today, doesn't it? When we think about access to education, cultural understanding, even just critically engaging with all the information swirling around us.
Absolutely. It makes you think about how we learn now.
Yeah, it connects back to what we aim for in these deep dives. And like you mentioned, with resources like Mindful Moments on YouTube, encouraging that deeper, more critical look at complex ideas, questioning assumptions.
It's that same spirit of inquiry. And for Freire, this wasn't just about pedagogy, about teaching methods. Teaching was fundamentally an ethical act.
Ethical, how so?
Because its focus was human liberation, not just, transferring facts. Genuine dialogue, genuine problem-posing education respects the student's own knowledge, their autonomy. It fosters mutual learning.
So the teacher learns too.
Absolutely. And he believed educators simply cannot be neutral when faced with injustice. Your teaching either supports the status quo, the inequality, or it challenges it. There's no middle ground.
That's a powerful responsibility for educators.
Oh.
So just to kind of wrap up the core ideas, Freire really throws down a challenge to that old banking model of just filling students up with facts.
He really does.
He champions this much more dynamic problem-posing approach, learning through questioning, through real dialogue, through critically examining our own realities.
All aiming for a greater sense of freedom, agency, and ultimately a more just world.
Yeah. He really invites you listening to maybe rethink our own learning experiences, doesn't he?
Definitely. It's a framework that pushes reflection.
So think about your own education journey. Were you mostly a bank where information was deposited, or were you invited to be a co-investigator? to question, to explore, to really wrestle with ideas alongside others. What might change, for you, for society, if we really embraced learning as more of a shared journey of discovery?
It's a question worth sitting with, for sure.
It really is. And if you found this exploration of Freire's ideas valuable, please do subscribe for more deep dives like this one.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Definitely. Share this with friends, colleagues, anyone you think might find it thought-provoking. We'll also pop a link in the description if you want to explore Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed for yourself.
It's a challenging read, but very rewarding.
Absolutely. And most importantly, just keep thinking critically about the world around you. Keep asking those questions.